What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 32 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. I'd like to give a big shout out to our listeners in Stockholm, Sweden, Santa Rita, Guam, and the English River in the Seychelles. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to support taking this podcast to more people in more countries, click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation could change a life. When we come back, we'll get into our episode entitled Stinking Thinking. Welcome back to our episode on Stinking Thinking. Let's start with a quote by Zig Ziglar. He said, "We all need a daily checkup from the neck up to avoid stinking thinking, which ultimately leads to hardening of the attitudes." What he's saying is when we get stuck stinking thinking as our everyday normal, our attitudes about ourselves and others can be hardened like steel, and even the best wisdom can't get us to change our thoughts. So what is stinking thinking? Here's a good checklist on stinking thinking. Are you ready for your checkup from the neck up? Number 1, do you seem to have negative opinions or reactions to situations and circumstances? Number 2, do you find yourself doubting what other people say or what they will do? Number 3, are you always rationalizing your choices and minimizing your actions? Do you blame others for bad choices that you have made? Number 4, do you find yourself holding on to resentment? Number 5, are you caught up in all or nothing thinking? Do you find yourself saying, "Everyone hates me," or "No one cares about me"? Number 6, do you jump to conclusions even though you have no facts to support your conclusion? Number 7, are you your own worst critic? Are you continually thinking about what you should have done or shouldn't have done differently? Number 8, even in new situations, do you find yourself falling back on your old ways of thinking? Well, how did you do on that checkup from the neck up? Here's a second checkup for you to see if this applies. Does the following statement from an anonymous addict sound like you? Yes, my life was falling apart, but I felt like I was in control. I was making the choices. Even though they were bad choices, I was making them. No one was making them for me, and I didn't want anyone to get close enough to try to make any choices for me. I'm not ready to be vulnerable. I just want to be free, alone. Well, how'd you do on that checkup? Did that sound familiar? Here's a third and final checkup from the neck up. Butch Hancock wrote the song, "My Mind's Got a Mind of Its Own." Listen to some of the lyrics and see if they apply. I tell myself to do the things I should, and then I get to thinking that them things ain't any good. I tell myself the truth, but no, I'm lying like a snake. You can't walk on water at the bottom of a lake. My mind's got a mind of its own. It takes me out a walkin' when I'd rather stay at home. Takes me out to parties when I'd rather be alone. My mind's got a mind of its own. Okay, no more checkups. Have you identified some of your areas of stinking thinking? Why is it so important to control these things in stinking thinking? Well, for me, stinking thinking is like a flat tire in our brain. We can't go anywhere until we change it. And the results of stinking thinking affect our emotions and our physical well-being. Some of the symptoms that arise are anxiety, depression, conflict, increased stress, difficulty concentrating, being easily frustrated, not enjoying life or even today, feeling miserable. It's like we get our wheels stuck in a rut and we don't know how to steer our way out. When we add all of these things to the battle of early recovery, we need to develop an action plan before stinking thinking fuels relapse. And Albert Einstein said, "We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them." So we need a new way of thinking. On the A to D podcast, we often talk about the importance of spirituality and faith in reshaping our value system and our ways of thinking. Today, I'd like to share another tool which can assist you in establishing your recovery and maintaining long-term health and wholeness. I'd like to talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is all about knowing what's going on in your mind at the moment. It's about compassionate, intentional awareness of the present moment. And by the present moment, I mean paying attention to your thoughts, your physical sensations, and the environment around you without judgment, but with complete acceptance of that present reality as it now stands. In our addiction, we are used to resistance, conflict, detachment, isolation, arguments, and things like that. Mindfulness is about letting go. It's about acceptance, non-judgment, trust, patience, generosity, and gratitude. Mindfulness involves finding and developing space and a place where you can come to meditate, contemplate, spend quiet time with positive thoughts. Some examples would be letting go of the fear of failure, letting go of negative assumptions about other people, and focusing on emotional stability rather than excitability. To get started, I would suggest that you write down some negative thoughts that you know have been haunting you recently, or maybe for years. Start a journal where you can capture your emotions around these thoughts and list goals of new positive thoughts that you hope to acquire. For example, if your negative thought is, "I'm never going to be able to stay clean or sober," you could reframe that thought by saying, "If I stay focused on this program, I'll have another day clean." You see, it's important to be careful of negative predictions you're making about yourself, because negative predictions tend to be self-fulfilling. You can write down some of your negative predictions, and as you reframe them, you'll be able to prove your old self wrong. And every time you've proved your old negative thoughts about yourself to be wrong, you will be rediscovering yourself and slowly retraining your brain to rediscover the good in you. Rabbi Harold Kushner said, "If you concentrate on finding whatever is good, in every situation, you will discover that your life will suddenly be filled with gratitude, a feeling that nurtures the soul. I want to also urge you to surround yourself with other positive people who are filled with this gratitude and generosity. You'll find that these people will make you hungry for life. They'll touch your heart and your compassionate side, and they will, as Rabbi Kushner said, nourish your soul. In closing, I want to leave you with two quotes. Mother Teresa said, "Be happy in the moment. That's enough. Each moment is all we need, not more." And the second quote is from the author A.A. Milne, who wrote, "What day is it?" asked Pooh. "It's today," squeaked Piglet. "My favorite day," said Pooh. Are you ready to make today and every day your favorite day? Leaving stinking thinking behind and moving on to mindfulness. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. Tune in Monday for our next episode. If you'd like to contact me regarding a Q&A session on addiction, speaking engagements, addiction coaching or consulting, or to utilize the From A to D curriculum and podcasts in your location, please go to my website, www.fromatod.org, and click on the contact page. Or you can leave me a message on Anchor. As always, stay safe and stay strong.